Hi, my name's Marya. I want to welcome you to the very first episode of BarTalk. Today's guest is, and even this I'm going to let him do because he goes by so many different names, I don't know the proper way to introduce you.
That's more than fair, actually.
So, what your name is?
So I'm Sydney Tristan Harris. I go by all three names depending on who you are to me, kind of how I know, how I met you,
Okay.
and usually the story behind that depending on what you call me. If you call me Bean, you're related to me because that's my nickname. I am a cisgendered, last I checked, Black American. Notice how I didn't say African American. Pointing that out. Geek from Flint, Michigan. Bit of an Oreo, and well, this is about it. I'm not terribly comfortable.
Where do you live right now?
Right now we're in San Jose, which is where I live. I'm a transplant from the Midwest, and it's 8 years. I've been here for 8 years. I think after 8 years I can call myself a Californian. I think
if
I
you want
say
to
that.
these days, but
Yeah, I'm do.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I'm born and raised here. I'm just kidding. And do you want to talk about your career?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So to the streaming world out there, I'm a sous chef. I work in one of the many Google cafes. You may have to edit that one out. I don't know. But I'm a sous chef and a corporate sous chef. I love to cook. I love to eat, most importantly. And I'll take this one moment of selfishness to say, if you cook for a chef, they actually normally don't want to judge your food. They want to eat your food because you cooked it for them and they didn't. So one of those misconceptions I have to deal with all the time where I'm a sous chef and people are like, I will never feed you. Please feed me.
So it's not like Hell's Kitchen. You don't
No.
only want a donkey.
No, yeah, no. I will take your free food that you put your heart and soul into, and I will eat it, and I will enjoy it, and I will not say shit about it, and it will be delicious. So,
I'm big on food. I'm a big foodie, but one of my favorite things to go to is a potluck. Like, I love what other people do, and
yeah,
it doesn't have to necessarily be something like with 18 ingredients or 3 things I have to look up. But
Exactly.
I love when other people cook for me.
yeah. Bring it on, bring it on. I'll eat all those things.
And since we are at BarTalk in a bar, what are you drinking today?
Well,
What is your
today
drink of
I'm
choice?
having my drink of choice is alcohol, but today what I'm drinking and my drink of choice when if I'm choosing the alcohol that I'm drinking is Jameson. And you'll notice here, to those who are watching the video, this giant mimosa.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the giant glass of Jameson.
Yes, well, that's just a normal glass of Jameson. I don't know what you're talking about. So that's what people should drink.
There's no time clock stamp on here, thank goodness. No one needs to know how early in the day it is.
And behind that is a giant mimosa.
There we go.
Which, thanks to these lovely bar owners here, you can get unlimited for a period of time in the day. And why not? It's Saturday and I don't have to work. So unlimited mimosas and Jameson sounds like a pretty happy Saturday to me.
Very cool.
Oh.
I'm Marya. The label I'm going to speak from today is feminist. And my drink for today is Prosecco. I spend a lot of time in a bar, so I have a lot of drinks I like. But this is what sounds good for today. We have it here in splits, so and make sure I pace myself. It's not bottomless. And then soda water is always my sipper because I got to slow my roll sometimes.
My sipper is the mimosa. Holy shit. Yeah.
So let's, from which any of those labels that you mentioned, the descriptors of you, what is a stereotype that you love? Oh, and I wanted to go back. You said not African, so you said black.
I said Black American.
You prefer black and not African.
Yes, and I'll speak about that a little bit. I prefer the term Black American, and I feel that African American is a bit of a misnomer, and I feel that it's people trying to be politically correct a lot because they think they're supposed to refer to me as an African American. Thanks, 70s. But no, I am not an African American. I've never been to Africa. I have no desire to go to Africa, maybe Morocco. And a little backstory here. I did the DNA test. I am like 99.6% West African by DNA, but I don't know if my DNA defines who I am. It definitely defines where I came from. But if you go back far enough, everyone came from Africa. So I started getting into that whole complicated, and I don't want to get into it. And I think about being an American, and when I meet other Americans, I don't call out their where they came from originally. Like they're just an American. and I would like to just be an American. Also, I identify pretty hard with being from the Midwest, with being from Flint, Michigan, and there I'm that. Like, call me a Michigander, call me a Flinter.
I didn't even know that was Michigander.
I say Michigander. Some Michiganders. Michigonian is a very popular one, but I like Michigander. People say gander to geese. I disagree with them. It is, but I like Michigander. Call me all those things related to where I was born and what I identify with. I can identify with being African. So I'm a black American. I am American, just like everyone else, but I'm the darker one.
I would never presume to tell anyone what they should call themselves or feel like about themselves.
Yeah.
But that makes a lot of sense to me. And one thing that I didn't realize before, I think it was just like this getting new information, but Africa is a huge continent. When we say Africa, we're talking a continent with 58 countries, I believe.
Holy shit.
I think that, it's massive, so it doesn't mean anything. It would be, and I think about, I have friends that are Italian or Irish, Greek, what those identifiers mean to them, like I am Italian or I am Irish or I am Scottish, or if you just lumped them all together and said you're a European American, they would be like, it doesn't mean anything. It's so broad.
Yeah.
And to say that you're going to lump all those people from these different countries together, and Europe's much smaller than Africa. So it just, to me, it really just takes, like you said, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's just, so I think that way as well. And without, if I'm not told, then I refer to people, and I capitalize. Black to me is, because of what America did, tearing people away from their home countries. They don't have anything more specific to go to, and so to me that's a way of being, that's how I feel I'm being most respectful, unless someone tells me that they want something different.
Yeah. I can get into a whole conversation about black heritage, so I won't though. That'll be for a different podcast. But yeah, so thank you, and I appreciate it. And I'm trying to push this whole black American thing as hard as I can. Let's just drop the African American. We can get rid of that and stop trying to be PC. You can call me Black American. I am black and I am American. Both of things are accurate. It's fine. But yes, you had a question that you posed for me earlier.
A stereotype that you love from one of those, whatever. Labels.
A stereotype that I love. Okay, so I'm gonna preface this a little bit. I don't love any of my stereotypes because most of them don't actually match me. But I do get some benefits from them, right? So a stereotype that I love or at least appreciate. I'm a black man, so I get the ability to dance. That I'm supposed to be smooth, charming, athletic, charismatic, huge penis. Like, I get all these things. None of these are fucking true, but I get them by default.
Singer.
And I sing. Oh, I'm supposed to have a beautiful
Very
voice.
musical.
Yes. If you've ever come to this bar and heard me do karaoke, you absolutely know that it's not true. But,
I don't agree. I have heard it.
I get all those stereotypes, and then I get some that aren't necessarily associated to black people. I get the geek ones too. I wear glasses. I have a very particular speech pattern, the way that I talk. So I get, oh, you're obviously smart. You're obviously educated. I read a book once when I was in school, so that grants me with some sense of intelligence. And I also get, so that's a good one.
So you like that?
I like that. I like people thinking that I'm smart. You know, I'm like, I'm not really that smart, but it's cool. So those are all the stereotypes that I don't necessarily agree with, but I do like the fact that I can walk into a place, not say a damn word, and I'm gifted with all this stuff. It really makes slavery still not worth it, but you know, fringe benefits of not having historical
Silver
history.
lining, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if we're ever gonna level it out.
Yeah, maybe, yes.
And then a stereotype that you hate, or I don't know where this would fit in, but or a stereotype that you fit. So sometimes I feel like for myself, if there's a stereotype you fit, it's almost like the rest of the people in your group are like, really, you have to reinforce this. Like, you're not helping us. So it's sometimes it can be something that you fit, or it's just something that you hate. Like, you hate that is one of the stereotypes.
So that is, a stereotype that I fit, both that I like and don't like. That's a kind of an easy one. So a stereotype that I fit is that I work out. I'm a fairly healthy, broad, fit-looking black dude. Yeah, Marya, she's been getting it lately. And one that I fit is that, black man in the hoodie. I look very intimidating, and I know what intimidating looks like, and I know that if I'm in a hoodie and I'm not making eye contact, I know that I can look very intimidating. So that's one that I fit that I don't particularly like. I actually understand it, and I don't get down on any white woman who crosses the street. They see me walking down the street in a hoodie and I'm having a bad day. I know you disagree with that, but safety first, ladies. So if you see a guy in a hoodie, black or white, just cross the street. It makes you feel safer. Like,
but wouldn't you agree that as the black man in a hoodie, if there's a white woman walking down the street, you should cross the street so that you stay safe? Because the way the 911 calls,
yeah,
and overreacting.
Yeah, that's it. I actually agree with that.
Yeah, I think we're a little more of the two of us.
Yes,
I'm a little more
afraid.
A threat to you than you are.
I'm terrified of you. You might call the cops and I'm going to get arrested and shot. A couple other stereotypes that I absolutely fit. Luckily for me, well, actually, I'm backtrack here. Some of my stereotypes I grew into, so I've grown into being charming and charismatic. Like I've grown into those. I wasn't that way. I've grown into being boisterous and loud because those were my stereotypes. So I knew that
was the Jameson.
Yeah, maybe. I've also grown into being an alcoholic, and so those stereotypes I've kind of grown into. I haven't quite. Those aren't the ones that I just naturally adhere to. So I am them now, but I wasn't them before. They gave me room to grow. And those are things that I knew that I wanted to be more friendly in bars and in places and meet people, so I could take advantage of that. I could push to be boisterous and it wouldn't be weird or awkward. I'm just fitting my stereotype, and this was one I can agree with. Some of the ones I disagree with are actually not as connected to my race as one would think. I really disagree with the intelligence one, although I appreciate it. Growing up, where I grew up and how I grew up, and the fact that I'm Oreo, I'm a geek, and I grew up in a place where there were no Oreos or geeks around. One of the ones I really disagree with was the intelligence one. People gifted me intelligence that I didn't deserve. Like, oh, you're naturally smart, you're naturally this, and I was always like, no, I'm not any smarter than any other kids here. I just wear glasses and I speak in a certain way, and for some reason I got gifted intelligence points that I never earned, and I've always disagreed with that.
Do you think did that feel like maybe pressure, or like people assumed more of you than like, was it a problem? Like it became a what's the word I'm looking for? A burden?
Yeah, actually, it kind of did. So growing up, even though I was an adult, like, people were like, oh, you're a very smart guy, you're a very intelligent guy, and it's like, I've heard plenty of people talk, they're way more intelligent than me, but I have a way that I speak that delivers very well and lands very well in the ears. So, and being who I was, I thought I should live up to this supposed intelligence that I had. And I had a lot of time in my life where I'm like, oh, I'm not as smart as I should be. I'm not as smart as people make me out to be. So I would always have that walking around with me, like a constant failure all the time. And so the intelligence thing is actually one that I would say, surprisingly enough, the biggest one that I disagree with. Just because I read a book and I'm semi-intelligent and I can express my thoughts and I wear glasses doesn't mean I'm a fucking genius. I puts me in the kind of, I'm just normal. I'm just a normal dude. But the rest of the stereotypes are fine. All black guys have large penises, and everyone should believe that.
There's a joke.
Yes. We can dance and sing, and we're amazing, and we're great fathers. Oh, there's one. Black guy, dad, running out. Doesn't apply to me because I don't have any children, and I never wanted kids, but it is an unfortunate stereotype that if you're a black guy and you have a kid, you're going to run out on them. And if you're a black guy, you have an affinity for white women, which we 100% do. But it is still not the
stereotype that you fit.
Yes.
That causes some.
It causes some, because every time I talk to a white woman, I feel they think that I'm hitting on them, and sometimes, most of the time, I'm not. I'm just talking to you.
You ain't all that.
Yeah, right. I'm like, I found you said something interesting in the bar, and I wanted to talk about it, but calm the fuck down. Like, chill out, dude. Like, yeah, you're a white girl, I'm a black guy. I probably find you attractive, but that's okay. I find a lot of people attractive. That doesn't mean I'm trying to get with you. I'm trying to have a conversation about Deadpool. So, yeah.
So, gosh, I said I was going to start with feminists, but I feel like I should
switch gears.
Well, because we already covered some of it. White woman. So a stereotype that I love, that works well for me, that I fit and I love, is that I get a lot of privilege. Life goes my way. People are nice to me. I get free shit. I've been pulled over and I can count on one hand the number of times I've been pulled over, and 2 ended up in tickets. I was let off the hook a lot. And when I was younger, I thought it was my sunny disposition and my smile. And I realized my sunny disposition and my smile is because I'm a white woman, and life is very easy for me, and so I can smile a lot, and I don't get rebuffed very often, and so it's been a lot of self realization lately, that idea of privilege and what that meant for me and what that got me, and all the different ways that it's really helped me out and furthered me along. And then a stereotype that I don't fit, that I hate, is the whole Karen, calling the cops.
Yeah.
Being racist, wanting to speak to the manager. I hate that one. I definitely don't. I don't fit that one, and I don't like that. I feel like. Well, this will get into a bias in a minute, but I really feel like it's my job to go out in the world and let people know I'm not that person.
Yeah.
So I smile first, and I engage first, and I'm like, I'm not that.
Right,
I'm not that
right,
way.
yeah.
So before we switch gears back again, what's a bias that you had or have that you think in general, like for anything?
Oh, I have a lot of those. But right before I get into those biases, I want to compliment you. You made a couple of really good talking points. The fact that one, that you acknowledge that you are a white woman and you have privilege. That's a huge thing. And I think more white people, and white men specifically, need to acknowledge the fact that they have a privilege. I'm a man. I may be a black man, but I am still a man, so I have more privilege over women. You've been a white woman. Just because I have a penis, I have more privilege than you. And
we had a black president before we had a woman president, and
Exactly.
that told me where I stood in the world.
It
because
did.
This country is racist as fuck.
It's racist and it's
but
sexist
it's more
as fuck.
sexist.
Yeah, it is, because we all hate black people, but we hate black women a little more.
White women too.
Yeah,
I said,
yeah.
like we got
women a little more.
We had a black man president before we had a female anything president.
And
so.
I feel that one of the reasons that we did, this might be very controversial, is because that it was a woman. Like at the end of the day, I think people went to people were just like, but it's a woman though.
What do you mean, the 2016?
Yeah. But she won the popular vote, so don't get me wrong. Most of America did agree that she was the better choice. But I feel that I know that people voted for the other guy because they were like, oh, she has a vagina, so maybe.
I don't even know if it's that self-aware, if it was that
well, I don't think it
conscious.
was.
But
Conscious.
I know that I fell into the she's a female trap because, and this again, it goes into so many other things.
I know. This is the problem with BarTalk. You end up talking about all this stuff too.
But my oldest child's 25, and so 2016, and we have 5 kids all together. So 2016 was the first election I really was involved in, because I didn't have little kids at home. So again, when we talk about women's choice to choose and wanting women to stay pregnant and be forced into pregnancy is really another way of keeping them down, because when you're raising little kids and when you're pregnant, you can't look at your rights. You can't think about politics. So 2016 was the first time I was really involved in politics. And I know I was not for Hillary. I voted for her in the end, but I didn't want her to be the Democratic nominee. And I realized after the fact that a lot of it had to do with, like, there were stories reported about her, and I believed them, and they were true. However, they were true about many other people before, and I wasn't involved in politics, so I didn't know till after the fact.
Okay.
Like the emails. Colin Powell did something similar with emails.
Yeah.
Never was a thing.
Right.
There was another guy who was, I think he was an FBI agent, and he gave all the secrets to his mistress.
Yeah.
And he never made the news. So here, this thing with her emails and the servers seemed like such a big deal, and her speeches to some of the Wall Street corporate stuff, all those seemed like a big deal, but everyone did that. And it was the way it was reported, and so I fell into the same trap. Like, would these stories have been stories, like, I shared those stories, I believed in those stories, I used them as evidence for what I thought, and it was all because she was a woman.
Yeah,
and it was reported differently.
I 100% agree with that, and I have a lot of comments about that. I'm not going to talk about because I don't want to go to the area, but I did want to highlight the fact that you did acknowledge your privilege, and I think that the only way to truly dispel some of the biases in the country is for people to, like, suck this fuck up and acknowledge the privileges that you have. Because unless you say that they're real, you can never truly get out of the way of someone else. I can never truly get out of the way of a woman, or because I'm a sous chef, I am a chef, I am a manager, I'm a leader.
Male-dominated field,
I'm in the male-dominated field. I can never truly help this woman who was a prep cook be better until I realize that oh, the guy next to her will get more privileges in life just because he's a male. I get more privileges than her because I'm a male, and my words land harder because I am a male. And knowing that helps me go, okay, that's something I get. I can adjust for it now. That's something I have. So you are acknowledging that you have this privilege because you're a woman, because you're a white woman, and also, not going to get into it, but also noting that the word is sight and burning for you, but because it's always been sight and burning for you because you have the privilege, and that's a huge one. I wish that's the word I want to spread. Like, oh, you think everything's perfect? Well, you think everything's perfect because everything has been perfect for you. Like, I'm sorry, but it's not for everybody else. So I wanted to highlight those two things that you said, and give the proper due. So I can't remember your question.
A bias that either you've had in the past or that you have now, and it doesn't necessarily have to relate to race, anything that you. But just wondering if there's something you've become aware of, or that you realize you used to do, or that you still do, that is some sort of a bias.
Yeah, so I have a lot of bias. Because I grew up in a community that's black and white, most of my biases are black and white, literally black people and white people, and say that there's people in my life that I consider family that are white. Like, there's a woman I call a sister and she's white. There's a woman I call she's like my other mom and she's white. Like, there's people that I call family, like, but they're white, but they're my family, and I treat them as such. But I do have these biases, right? And I also have black family, obviously, because I wasn't adopted, and I have tons of black biases, and I guess one of them is the black ghetto bias. When I see black people, one of my biases, and moving to California really helped me with that because Oakland exists, where black people, they are ghetto, but they're also, it's more of a culture, and you can see the culture. One of the biggest ones, biggest mistakes I made with my biases were the connection between black people and being ghetto. That was a huge one because when I grew up, black people were away. I associated wrongly with it being like a ghetto mentality or a ghetto lifestyle, which I wasn't a part of because I was an Oreo geek, so it just didn't appeal to me, and I wasn't included. And so that's one of the biggest biases in my life, where it's like, oh, associating black people with this particular culture.
Okay, so you're saying that if you saw like a young black man, you would assume that.
Yeah. I assume that like he's like some super ghetto black dude.
Up to no good, maybe, or.
Yeah, and just now I have the same biases for white people. Because in Flint, where I grew up, if you're white and you look a certain way, you live in a trailer, and my brain goes, oh, trailer park, male fad, doing this, doing that,
All the jokes. There's so many jokes.
Yeah, so many. I have those same biases, but because I'm not white, I feel more guilty about my black biases than my white biases. Because I'm like, oh, those were, and both of them were wrong. But I didn't learn that until after I left Flint, after I moved. I lived in Vermont for a while. Ward of white people, and then I moved out here. It was a very liberal melting pot. So yes, they both were wrong, but I do have more of a guilt about the black one. Yeah.
So my bias, it was about 2 years ago. Actually, I worked a Saturday day shift behind the bar, which you never see me here by myself working a shift. I had to cover. We were getting ready to go out of town down to LA for a convention, and I had two major interactions that day, and I'm going to talk about one of them. And I made a post, and people loved the post, and no one called me on the shift. But these two older black gentlemen walked in, and I think just one look at them, you knew they were going to be a good time. They were like joking and jovial and razzing each other. They were like maybe in their late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah.
But they were just having a good time. They were they were funny. And so we're interacting, we're chit-chatting. And one guy's more the funny, boisterous one, and the other guy's more the straight guy to help the joke along kind of a thing. And the really funny, boisterous one says, let me ask you a question. And his buddy says, God, please don't do this. He's like, no, can I ask you a question? I'm like, yeah, go for it. And he said, if I was walking down, and this is exactly what you were just talking about earlier, if I was walking down the street, would you be afraid of me?
Yeah.
And I said, and like this is like a bias that I had and that I'd really been observing and working on, but to my shame, I said, if you smiled at me, I would smile back. Like that, and then no problem, right?
Yeah.
Which is bad. It's not as bad as, no, I'd be afraid no matter what. Like that would be worse.
Yeah.
Or being hateful.
Yeah.
But and I said it, and I went home and I posted about it, and everyone, oh my gosh, you have the best heart, da 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 da, and it didn't click at the time, but at that time, it was also a feminist thing where I realized that women, we hold each other back a lot, and we attack each other, and that I was going to consciously go out in the world and compliment women whenever I came across one, specifically in something that was within her control. So not what a pretty smile or nice eyes, but like, I love your style, I like the choices you made, something as a way of engaging and just trying to be more positive, and like we're all on the same team kind of a thing.
Right.
And so I started doing something similar just with any time I would come across minorities in general, of just like trying to be more engaging. I'm not that one, more smiling.
Yeah.
And I started noticing, like when we go to the grocery store, there was one black checker, their line was always the shortest.
Right.
And in that if you smile at me thing, I would sometimes look and say, they don't look like they're going to be very friendly. But I would still get in that line, and this was the eye opener for me. I would get to the front and I would smile, and no matter what, I wasn't going to wait for that smile. I was like, I'm going to smile, and I would smile, and I'd get this huge smile back and all this friendliness, and that's where that whole thing started to be about. I thought I was smiley and friendly, and that's why things went my way, but I could be smiley and friendly because it was always reciprocated.
Right.
And that what I kept seeing over and over again is when I smile first, I always got to smile back, and it made me realize that a lot of times people that are minorities in America, where they're being mistreated, they don't get that smile back, and they become more guarded. And so it's not that they weren't being friendly or that they looked grumpy, or it was that guard up because of being mistreated by the world so often. And when you see it over and over and over again, you go to the grocery store and see that line's the shortest, it's not a coincidence. Like, it's subconscious. I don't think people are intentionally doing things, but you can just tell when you look at, like, that's the biggest thing to me, is when I go to checkout lines and I see that difference. And so that was a bias I had. And so when I said you smile first and I'll smile back, what I'm saying is that bias is that you're dangerous until you tell me you're not.
And I agree with you, but wouldn't it be such a shame that if all the racism are in America and all the biases in America is attributed to just people having resting bitch face and just not being like, sorry man, I look like a dick when I'm not smiling. No, I give you that. Also, you are a woman, so when the man's walking down the street, black, white, Mexican, Asian, doesn't matter, and the smile just let you. I would say just make me feel a little more safer. When I walk down the street and there's a woman and I'm a black guy in a hoodie and maybe I had a bad day and I'm walking, I will make eye contact and well, oh, hey, how you doing? To put her at ease, because like I said before, I am a man. I have certain privileges in this world, and that can put someone off. And I get that, and I acknowledge that, and I think there's a certain power to acknowledging that, hey, I gotta make this woman who's walking down the street next to me, black or white, I take the race out of it, feel comfortable. If I'm wrong, I'm sure plenty of women will call me the fuck out. No problem. But yeah, so as I do agree with you, also, it is up to the men who have power.
Well, I'm not just talking about men, though.
I know, I'm talking about black men specifically.
No, black women too.
Black women too?
Yeah. All minorities. I'm just saying that it's not, I don't think it's a male-female thing.
Okay.
Like, one of the ones that specifically in my mind happened was actually a black woman. She was to check out, we were at the grocery store with my son, and her line was significantly short. It was one of those, they don't have them here, it was in Stockton. It was one of those great big, I can't remember the name of it, but we don't have any of them around here like this. So it's this huge store, like a Costco kind of thing, but the lines are huge.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And she just looked grouchy. I just thought she's not having a good day, and it wasn't like my familiar area and stuff. But when I got to the front, I smiled. I'm like, hey, how are you? And she
lit up.
Yeah, smiled back, chit-chatted the whole time, was super friendly, and so it was. But that's not the only time. But it's just one of those times that stuck out. It was one of the first. It was really about what I do, what I put out into the world. It's not, and that when I have that idea of you smile first is me saying there might be something wrong with you, and I'm working off the bias that there's something wrong with you and you're dangerous until you tell me I'm wrong. Instead of the other way around. Instead of just assuming that everyone I meet's a good person and going forward from there.
So we learned some lessons. We learned that one, large, gouache-looking black women are actually very boisterous and happy. I can contest that they all carry candy in their purses and all have money in their left side boob, according to every auntie I've ever had. And they will pull that money out and give you money to buy candy. It will always be $1 because inflation does not grow with large black women. There's like, no, $1 that equals candy in good times. So be nicer to large black women.
So now I'm going to look and see if you can buy anything for $1 at the store. I wonder.
Do not go to any law woman and be like, I heard you have dollar in your boobs. That won't work out well
No,
for
no,
you.
no. Promise. So you talked about being an Oreo. Can you tell me more about that and what that means? Like you talked about the way you speak and stuff. Like, do you think is that something you were born? Is that something you were taught? Something you taught yourself? Like, tell me more about all that.
I don't know where the fuck I get it from. I have no clue. I don't talk or sound like anyone in my family. I'm fucking weird. I always call myself the white sheep of the family because I am. I stick the fuck out the moment I open my mouth.
White sheep.
Yeah, I don't know where I get it from or why I talk to what I do. I watched a lot of TV as a kid. I didn't feel connected to anything around me. Like I said, I grew up in a world where I was the only geek Oreo around forever.
How'd you know you were a geek? Like, how did that start?
I didn't actually. I didn't know that until I met my best friend in high school. I didn't know I was a geek. I saw it was just weird. And being an Oreo in my family, and speaking the way I speak, I would open my mouth and talk, and they go, basically like, you ain't one of us. There's something different about you. And I never got it. So I have no. I was just born different. And being an Oreo in Flint, Michigan, it came with some problems. It came with some things, you know. You go to a school, you have all these really like black people, like even the white girls are black, and they show up and they're just like, "What are you, smart or something?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. We're in the same school, we're in the same grade. Like, we have the same shitty teacher. Like, you know, I'm not smarter than you by any degree." I try a little bit harder, and I also don't have any friends, so I have a lot of time to study. Like, I don't know.
So it's hard to make friends.
I had almost no friends until I figured out that I was a geek, and I met a guy in high school, and he was like, "Hey, man, geek stuff," and I was like, "Yeah, I like geek stuff. It's cool. Like, I like X-Men and things like that, and Ghostbusters, and I was a huge TMNT fan." Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to the non-geeks out there.
I did know that.
I know you did. And he's like, blah, blah, blah. I'll put it this way. I was so alone on my little geek island, I didn't watch Star Wars until I was in my 20s. I was 21 the first time I watched Star Wars.
My goodness.
Right?
I'm sorry, you have to leave now. No.
In the Star Wars, you have a lightsaber tattooed on your arm.
I do.
Yes. I was 21 the first time I watched Star Wars. I watched the first Star Wars. No, actually, the first Star Wars movies I watched, I wasn't 21, that's a lie. I watched Phantom Menace with my mom. She took me because she was like,
well, no wonder. Yeah, you can't start with that.
Yeah. She was like, I know about these Star Wars
And I'm giving
movies.
Paul the eye right now because that's his favorite. I love you.
That was the first one. So I actually liked the Phantom Menace because it's connected to the first time I watched Star Wars. And then my friend, who's the better geek, who was just like, hey, man, I know you like that movie, but I liked it too because he grew up with Star Wars with his dad. But he was like, let me bring you into the fold now. So he brought over, his father owned A New Hope before it was cut, before it was redone in 96.
Okay, reimagined or whatever.
Yeah, reimagined.
Digital, whatever.
Yeah, ruined in 96. And he had it on VHS. He brought it to my house and had a VHS player because it was 2000. And I watched A New Hope for the first time, and I was like, that was fucking amazing. And that's when I first really started to really understand that, like, I had watched The Matrix years before and blah 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 blah, but that was when I first understand, like, I am kind of a geek. Like, I'm trying to figure out how a lightsaber works right now. Like, that was my level. So that's when I figured it out. But being an Oreo, it is the identifier that has traveled with me through 3 states: Michigan, Vermont, here. I go to a place, I'll open my mouth, and people go, "You're not black," which I don't necessarily like, and I think you're going to say you don't like it for the same reason. I want to see what you.
No, I was going to ask, is that something that I'm not sure. From what you're saying, I'm not sure what you think about that. Like, do you say like, yeah, I'm an Oreo and I love it, and that's who I am, or is it kind of like, is this something that you hate that is constantly thrown at you, or? It
is both. It is both. Yeah, for sure. Like, imagine this: I'm walking into a bar and you open your mouth and I go, "You're not really white, are you?"
I do get that.
But it doesn't sound. It's like it makes you go like, "What do you think is white? Like, how am I not being white by not being all the black stereotypes? Am I supposed to be rude? Am I supposed to be a womanizer? I'm supposed to walk in and be like, you know, what the fuck, homie? Like, all the time? Like, what does not being? How do you talk for me for 10 seconds and be like, you're not black? And it always confused me. Now looking back, being in my 30s and living in California, I can look back on that and be like, oh, I can see the stereotypes. I can living on two different coasts and in the middle. I can see them being like, oh, I get it. I get how the world works. And I get the world sees everyone through their biases and through their stereotypes. And seeing through mine, I don't adhere to those in the beginning. Like when you first see me, when you first meet me, I adhere to none of those stereotypes, right? But that was one. It sticks with me and it travels with me, and it's wherever I go. And I can't even say I fully understand.
So let's talk about the term Oreo. Like, what do you? Because there's terms like that for many minorities. There's coconut is brown on the outside, white on the inside.
Twinkie.
Banana.
Yeah, banana
is like Asian. That's like white on the inside. And so there's a lot of. And so I've always wondered where those terms, because they're definitely used within that community as a put down to someone else.
Yeah.
But it usually, like when you're talking about Oreo, I just wonder if it has some sort of a white supremacist basis into how it got started.
I don't think it does.
Because it kind of is, it's often putting down things that are positive. Like sounding smart is okay.
Yeah.
Liking to do school or do well at school, like Michelle Obama talked about in her book.
Yeah.
That her cousin said, you sound. Why do you sound white? Like what's wrong with you?
Why do you sound educated?
Yeah, and she worked really hard at school and shit. So I feel like making a negative about things that should be a positive is maybe something that's done insidiously by another race to keep that race down. And like if everyone's making fun of each other for doing things that are what most people consider being somewhat successful in life, like doing well at school or liking to study or doing other things like that, is that a way? Is it really something that just starts in that community, or is it something? You know what I mean? Like I just wonder how it came to be.
Like fucking CIO level infiltration where people. No, and I don't think that it is. I mean, maybe at some point in time it was.
Well, what's a Twinkie? White on the outside, white on the inside?
Yellow on the outside, white on the inside.
Oh, okay.
Yellow.
Okay.
It's same as banana. I actually never heard the term banana.
Banana's the one Because Twinkie to me is like white on the outside. That's why.
Yes, Twinkies to me are delicious. So why would you want that? Why would you want to be delicious?
I just couldn't figure out the outside and inside. Okay.
And call me an Oreo because it means I'm great. I'm delicious all the way through.
But I do wonder, just like where those things come from.
And maybe it started off that way, but I didn't get any of that growing up where I grew up. What I got was black people having a bad association to what wasn't ostensibly black, and if you weren't that, then they didn't understand it. So maybe it started off that way, but I 100% now get the. I get the like, oh, you're an Oreo just because you're slightly different, and I'm kind of lost where I was going with this.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. I think that's more so due to Jameson than it is to you, because I've been drinking that for 2 hours already. But I don't think it's from outside of our community. I think it's from. It may have been incepted in some way into our community, but we as in every race took a hold of it because it is a way to bully and make people feel less than, and nothing makes an individual feel better than making someone else feel worse. So I don't think that we can blame any race can blame outside of the community for that. I think it's a human error thing that people like to use.
It just seems like it always highlights things that are negative, and that would be. It reinforces stereotypes, right? Like if you're coconut, if you're talking like Hispanic and white in the inside or black, it's usually things that, like, to not be an Oreo would to be reinforcing the stereotypes that are negative.
Yeah, if you're going to be a black, you got to be a certain level of ignorance, which I always found bad because as I got out there and explored the world, I had a cousin. My cousin was way smarter than me. He was just a different kind of smart that no one recognized, and. People go me and go, oh well, you're this, you're an Oreo. He's actually black, but he's stupid. I'm like, but he wasn't stupid. That was the problem I had. Like he was just smart in a different way, and
which a lot of that's
a lot of people are. And if he had not turned toward the lifestyle he was in and went towards a different lifestyle, he would have done way better than me at life because he understood people and he could see things in a very raw, real way that I couldn't. Like I'm broken in a lot more ways than he was. But that wasn't it. I'm an Oreo, and the term took away certain things from me. It took away from me being black. It took away from me being able to see the world in that way. And also, when my stereotypical blackness comes out, it makes it weird and strange, and people go like, why are you doing that? That's not you. That's not like you. But it is me, dude. Like, it's part of me. I am who I am. I just, it's just, the levels are different. And but the biggest thing about being an Oreo that I noticed also didn't affect me was that it took away a lot from other people, because when they call me an Oreo, they're in fact calling themselves something else. Like, they're defining themselves in that same degree. Like, oh, we're putting you in this box because we put ourselves in this box. And I'm like, you only can define me through defining yourself. So, and that always bothered me, because like, I met some really smart people out there who don't talk the way I do. They talk ghetto as fuck, but listen to them, they're saying really smart things. And I go, you said something. Like, I was talking to a person a while ago, I think it may have been here. And,
we have a lot of good conversations.
Super ghetto dude. Well, super ghetto fucking dude. And he's saying things that I agree with, but I thought before that people thought I was weird and white for it, because that's white people thinking, right? And I'm like, this guy is saying the same shit I'm saying, but he's saying it in a really ghetto way that I understand because I speak lingo, I can decipher it. But he wouldn't be considered an Oreo. He would be considered one of those ghetto black guys who's kind of stupid. And I'm like, that's something that is lost in a black community by just not taking someone for who they are and being like, oh, you're a kid, you're a little off the beaten path, maybe you're a geek, maybe you're an Oreo. Let's just take off the term Oreo, because you have to define white and you have to define black in that term.
It's all nothing but prejudice and bias. Like, it doesn't work unless you incorporate all those stereotypes.
Yeah. So that one, and now I kind of own the term a little bit. I am an Oreo. I will call it out. I will say it.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, finish.
Well, I wanted to ask, is there a positive to it? Like, does being an Oreo, has that given you some sort of, I don't want to say privilege, but some positives? Do you think it has helped you face less, like, racism in the world, because you're able to avoid some of the pitfalls that someone that's considered black has to suffer, or consequences?
So, as a black man, there's a very negative, derogatory term that I'm not going to use on your podcast that every black man is associated with.
That word,
that black people have kind of owned in their own
I would
way.
never tell anyone else what they could or couldn't say, but it physically makes me cringe. I just think it's so
as it should, so thank you for that.
I hate it. But like I said, I would never tell anyone else what to do or say. But
which I use it all the time with most of the black people. But Oreo's kind of the same feeling for me. Like, I had to own it, and it had to become my thing, and it's not something that someone else
so you de-weaponized it.
I de-weaponized it. They can't hurt me with it anyway, and also I own it in my way, but maybe I'm not, every person I meet, I'm not defining the term for them. So when I own it, I'm owning it in my mind, in my own way, and they can have it any way they want. They think they're like, oh, this is what it means to me, and in my mind I go like, this is what it actually means, though, dude. But yeah, you use it however you want. It's kind of the same way, and you're not going to take the time to go throughout your whole life and fucking go to every single person and be like, hey, this is what
you walk around with your soapbox.
Yeah,
I got a speech today.
All right, here we go. Let's make a fucking speech. Yeah, I don't do that. You use the way to use it. And if you're willing to have an open, honest conversation about me, about it with me, then yeah, I'll fucking do that. But if not, you can use that term, Oreo, that's the other one. You can use that term and that phrase, and I will own it because I know what it means. I actually know what it means because I live it. So
do you feel like it gives you positives? Like, not the word itself, but the fact that you sound white or sound smart. Like, do you think that has that? Let me back up a little bit. So the term Oreo, that was used against you by your own community, right? These
Correct.
are people that looked like you that used it to kind of put you down. And you said you didn't have a lot of friends growing up. So,
Correct.
Like, now that you're older and you've moved to Bay Area and stuff, your friends now, do you have a lot of white friends? Do you have a lot of black friends? Do you think the way you were treated in childhood shaped?
Oh, 100% for sure. Like, so even before the Bay Area, I have friends that I call family that are white. Like, my sister mother, Vicky, manager and mentor. Like, she was like a lot of things to me. She covered a lot of different areas there, wider than the bird in the snow, but is also responsible for me and helped me out a lot in my life. So me being Oreo, yeah, it touched a lot of things in life. Sorry, I forgot your question, so I'm drunk.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's the point. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I was just asking because that term was used against you as a put down from your own community.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, did that mean that are you less likely to have black friends now because of the way you were treated and the way you grew up?
Yes.
Do you have more white friends now? Like you've mentioned that you have some family that that are white that you
yes.
consider like family.
I had a lot of white friends and white family growing up, and black. It's Flint. It's not the best testing tool because it's the white and black community. You had one or the other. It's like one Mexican. I was friends with him.
So that Geek was Mexican?
No, that Geek was white.
Oh.
That Geek was white as shit. But I met another guy who's Mexican in there.
We went to Chicago, and that was really eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
Compared to here, was that there was very little diversity, but so much more. It was either black or white.
Yeah.
So looking from being here in Chicago is really close to that same area.
Yeah.
But it was just like looking around, like, okay, this looks different, and then trying to figure out how it looked different or what was so different, and
Right.
that was a big
It's
difference.
a huge difference. You don't get. Everyone stays on the coast. In the middle of America is just corn, cows, and racism. That's it.
And they've managed to monetize all of it.
Yeah. They still make money off of it. It's true. So yeah, it has affected the way I get friends in life 100%. Like most of my friends, and now moving to California, most of my friends are every other race that are not black. Partial to that is due to the fact that I live in San Jose. Not a lot of black people aren't the biggest minority group in San Jose. I gotta go to Oakland, but I don't connect with black people. It doesn't, like, I try to, and I'm like, had an interaction in the bar one time, and I was talking to someone, and they were talking about Jay-Z and Beyonce, and had fucking nothing to say. Cause I'm like, I know the names. That's it. That's all I got. I got nothing else. Jay-Z has a really squeaky voice. I don't know how he made it as a rapper. Like, that was my input into that whole conversation. People love Beyonce. I don't know why. I think Liz Warren is great. Like, that's all I had. And yeah, so me being an Oreo definitely put me on the outside of the community, but it also put me in a position where when I go to talk to people and make friends, I don't choose black people initially. I won't go that route unless I'm in a situation where I have to, or someone's just being really communicative and I can talk to them. Yeah. So yeah, like it has affected my life. I've allowed it to affect my life, but it's put me so far, being that thing has put me so far on the outside that I feel that I had to actually break back into it. I am definitely more comfortable in a room full. That's actually not an accurate accurate statement. I was going to say I'm more comfortable in a room full of white people than I'm black people, but I'm not. It depends on the white people and it depends on the black people.
Which we go back to the stereotypes, and not everyone's the same. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I know no one knows anyone else's experience, but what do you think? So you went from Michigan, which is a lot of racism, you said.
Yeah,
you
feel
like,
yeah.
And then here in the Bay Area, I would have said no racism until 3 years ago. And again, I know, white girl privilege. Like, I was like, but that doesn't, to me, that's a stereotype, whatever, that I've been proven wrong and wrong again in the last few years. I figured racism is only really ignorant people in backwoods, in the woods, in Alabama, like backwoods. And so that's been kind of mind-blowing. It's like, no, it is totally here. Like when the election happened, a lot of really awful things started happening around here. But I'm wondering, so you mostly have white friends, you're mostly hanging out in white communities.
Now Asian.
Or Asian, okay, but not black. So do you face less racism on how you look because of the communities you hang out in, or do you think you face more? Do you think it makes your life easier or harder?
So it's hard to answer that question because I've lived in the Bay Area for 8 years. And the Bay Area is not the place where you can look at as a litmus test for the rest of America. It's fucking weird here. You guys like each other. And you got white girls dating Asian dudes. What the fuck, man? That doesn't happen anywhere else in the world but the Bay Area.
What was that?
White girls dating Asian dudes.
You know, there was a movie filmed here, and that was the line.
Yeah, was it?
Yes, that was the line. So it's an Asian guy who's like out on a bender, and he ends up picking up the really really hot white chick, and his buddy's like, an Asian dude with a hot ass white chick. What the fuck? And
Yeah.
then he follows him into the bathroom. It was The Long Streak by Wild Dog Productions. Anyone wants to look it up? It was filmed here. Paul and I got to be in it, but that was the catchline.
I have not seen that movie. I just observed that to be truth. Like, so this area is fucking insane. It doesn't make any fucking sense compared to the rest of the country. It's not the best litmus test
for sure.
But
there is still a lot of. I mean, the Barbecue Becky was in Oakland.
Yes.
Permit Patty was in San Francisco. I mean, there's still.
And that being said, yeah, I do encounter a fair amount of racism, but because I am who I am and I live in the area that I am, most of it is the fun racism, and there is fun racism. There is that stuff you talk about with your friends, where you talk about stereotypes and things like that. And that's mostly what I encounter. It has been like maybe a handful of times. So if I try really hard, I can think about, and remember where I actually encountered actual racism here. Now, I don't leave the Bay Area very often, but it has happened. And I've definitely seen it with the fucking barbecue bitch. Yes, I don't remember her name.
Becky, Barbecue Becky.
Barbecue Becky?
I don't know if that was really her name. That's
Yes.
what they called her. Permit Patty, Barbecue Becky.
I'm going to say the barbecue bitch. That's where I'm going to stick with that.
We can fucking swear here. I don't care.
Yes. Well, I've been swearing, so I hope so. Yeah, like, I'm going to stick to that. I see it. I can see it in other areas. But my actual experience with it here has been very few and far between. And I hang out in your bar all the time. I talk about a lot of racist shit all the time. Sundays is a racist fest because we play Cards Against Humanity, and I'm always talking about some either racism or sex. But it's in that fun way where you're joking amongst friends. It's not in that hurtful way where you're like, I want to hurt you. It's kind of like, oh, you make a black joke about a stereotype about black people, and it's funny because you're having fun. So that's mostly where I encounter because my friends and I were all like, oh shit, let's talk about this. It's a black guy in the room, and my friends and he's Asian, he's a fucking Eskimo. Jokes galore. But in terms of actual hateful, hard racism, which I did encounter in my previous life in Michigan, well, that's not so much in Vermont where I live, but in Michigan, yeah, I haven't gotten that. And if you haven't experienced those two things, there is a very stark difference. Like, you can feel it. It's not like, oh, I talk to people who live in the Bay Area a lot about this kind of subject. I know a lot. I've spoken to them about it, and they go like, any racism is bad. And I go, no, there are some times that's way, way worse.
Yeah.
When you walk into a room and someone says something, you're just like, oh, my skin's crawling away from my body. Yeah. The white woman clutching her purse and crossing the street, that constant scenario, you hear about it, but when it actually happens to you, and you're a 13-year-old kid who got off on the wrong bus stop to a new school and who's lost and looking for help, and you go, excuse me, and that woman does that, and you go, oh, that is very much different from my friend making a racist joke about black people. Yeah.
Or overt hatred.
Or
like,
over hatred,
like
yeah.
I had that bias of you should smile first. Like, I kind of, maybe I'm assuming you're dangerous is much different than assuming really, hateful things about you or wanting to
Right.
see your demise. I mean, there are definitely levels. There are
Yeah.
definitely.
There are, yeah. And I use the term fun racism very loosely. It's just fun with friends.
Well, and I think. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. Damn it! I only
That
have the
happens with
one
alcohol.
glass.
Yes, that's the problem. You only have the one glass. You need more alcohol.
This was the thing. Everybody has biases and some prejudices. And prejudices just means prejudging.
Yeah.
And you can't go through life without learning some lessons and applying that somewhat. So I don't think it's about, like, when I hear people say I don't see color. We all see color.
Fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Like,
bullshit.
that's ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
that, so it's about, like, I think the road to fixing things, like when we talk about police officers and how they're treating people when they pull over, like, to do this whole you can't be racist or you shouldn't be racist or I've never been racist in my life, we all have those biases and it's acknowledging them.
Yes.
Like I had to acknowledge, like, oh wait, I'm making this assumption that someone is not okay until they, like, that's a bias, that's a prejudice. And I have that, so then I had to really actively make different choices, and I think that's the thing. Everyone has those biases.
Yeah. If you, I'm going to say something that has everything to do with what you're saying, but wasn't. Yeah, I want to say it. Police officers should 100% go through bias training.
For sure.
That's it.
I think that the problem with police policemen, and the same with military, is that it's self-teaching, self-instructing, self-governing, and that's where that problem comes in.
Oh,
so
that's a good point. Yeah.
I wish that our police officers, that we treat them like doctors. There are a handful of people that make life and death decisions all day, every day,
Yeah.
and they're doctors, they're judges, lawyers, prosecutors, and policemen.
Yeah.
Judges, lawyers, nurses, even a little bit less, but they all go to college outside of their field.
Yeah.
And I think that weeds out a lot. I mean, I think when you're doing it within, like, the police force is only training themselves, you don't have that filter to get things out.
It definitely helps.
And I think if they started with having to do 2 or 3 or 4 years of college, like a regular college, not a police academy, then that would help. I mean, I think that's why we don't see these kinds. I mean, not that it never does. I mean, that's been a lot of what's come out with, like, in the hospitals and EMTs and stuff, that they are actually a lot of racism that's been coming out in the last few years. But I think that helps keep it under control. And I think when it's self-educating and self-governing and it's all internal, then these things take hold and they just self-perpetuate.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big reason. But yeah, I think bias training, absolutely. And you have to know you have a bias. Like, so you think twice. Like, if you acknowledge that bias and you have someone pulled over and you're like, okay, this is a black man, so I'm going to calm down, take my hand off the gun, because I know this is my,
Yeah. What is that?
Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about.
Oh, we're really into that. We're really into that because cops keep shooting black people.
Yeah, and it sucks.
It's
I'm not
really
for
bad.
it. I'm not for it.
You're not for cops shooting black people.
Not at all.
Hey, innocent black guy. You get a t-shirt like, I am not for cops shooting innocent black people. That's in the shirt right there.
I love when people pull over and pull out their cameras and so I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm ready.
You're ready.
If
ready.
I see it, I'm ready.
Yeah.
But the sentencing that just happened.
Which one?
The Botham Jean case, I don't know her name, the white officer in Dallas.
Yes.
That was just sentenced to 10 years.
So
I feel like we're on different sides of this.
You feel like you're doing sides of this, which I find really interesting because I don't, and I commented on your page. And there's also the lady who was shot in her house by the police officer in, I think it was Texas.
Fort Worth, yep.
Fort Worth, Texas. And we got to talk about that one because it's getting hard for me to not talk about these things. Philippe Castile, I think, was my breaking point when I was just like, all right, fucking, this is, and I was just like, I was fine kind of ignoring the problem, but that one, for some reason, really stuck with me. It's a whole nother podcast.
He was a pillar of the community.
Yeah.
And he'd been pulled over, they say 57 times.
Yeah.
They went back and checked, like they were able to pull records.
Really?
I've been pulled over less than 5 times my whole entire
I've
life.
been very well. Been to Oreo works out very well for me. I haven't been pulled over very much.
But they can't see that you're an Oreo, so.
I know. Maybe I drive like one. I drive like an Oreo. Yeah.
So the sentence, the 10 years. So my thing is that I'm completely against the way the police. I think that police community
Wait a minute. I didn't actually hear about the sentencing. What was the sentencing?
10 years. She got 10 years.
10 years?
Botham Jean. This is the one where she went to. That was her apartment. And she got. So the sentence, I forget what the maximum was, but the minimum was 5 years.
Okay.
And she got 10 years.
Okay. So.
And a lot of people think it's not enough.
Okay.
And I do think it's enough. I don't think this is the case to hang our hats on. So one of the problems I have is that white male cops have been the majority of the perpetrators in these cases, and I want one of them to be sentenced and going to jail. I don't want it starting with white women, or any women. I just don't think that that's right. It's like Bill Cosby sitting in jail right now for the Hollywood scandal. He did horrible things. Totally think that he was not a good person in the choices that he made, but with all the white male executives that were doing this over and over, and in some ways are definitely just as heinous, if not sometimes even more heinous. Why is there only one black man sitting in jail? Yeah,
why is Weinstein walking around free and clear?
So I don't think that Bill Cosby was innocent and he should be getting off or anything. I just don't think we need to start with the one black man. An interesting story, I don't know if you know this is my own personal conspiracy theory. I need my whiteboard up here. But Bill Cosby was set to buy NBC Universal, and that would have made him the most powerful black man in entertainment industry by far. This was before everything broke. And I think that everyone in Hollywood knew exactly what was going on with all of these people, with Bill Cosby, with Harvey Weinstein.
Not a secret.
Yeah, Bill. What's his?
So why did it come out now?
So that he couldn't buy the studio. Yeah. And I think that they opened Pandora's box. I think they opened a can of worms. So I think they want to shut him down, and it ended up fucking everybody up, which I love.
Yeah, it was
but
great.
But I'm really sure that I feel like that's how that all came to be. Anyways, back to the officer. I don't think we need to start with a white female. And I also think that the sentence is correct. Like, I'm not excusing what she did by any means. Nobody should have lost their life that night.
Right.
But her act seemed much more. I mean, intent. When we talk about law and we talk about sentences, intent is a lot of it. Your intention, what you plan to do, premeditation and whatnot. She made a mistake. Whereas, like, I forget the man's name, but there was I mean, there's so many, you can't even keep them
Yeah,
up.
that's the sad part.
But they were trying to pull someone over. He was black. He didn't stop. It was like tail light was out, or it was something very minor. And the officer's on the radio saying, "We get to shoot that word today." Like, that is intent. That is, and
that is 100%
they
intent.
shot him and they killed him, and that officer did not stand trial. So her mistake was horrible, and she shouldn't have gone right for her gun, and that is some training and stuff. But in the whole scheme of things, it's not the one. And so they were so upset she didn't get more time. But hers sounds like an honest mistake. Like, if you're going to have a gun, you have to make better choices. That's why she's going to jail for 10 years. She didn't get the minimum, which was 5. So I thought you posted that you thought she should have gotten more time.
No,
too.
I did not. We actually do not stand on opposite. We stand.
Okay, I thought you had made a comment on one of my posts.
I did make a comment. I'll tell you what my comment was.
Okay.
So I 100% agree with you. I think 10 years was a good amount of time to get, and I also 100% believe that we shouldn't. A white woman, isn't the normal perpetrator of this crime. It should have been a white man. It's been a black guy. I feel like pick one. It's a fucking, like, ton of them out there. Hang your hat on one of those cases, and then punish this woman for being stupid. But yeah, I think 10 years is a good amount of time. 10 years of your life in a prison, punished for a crime, as being a cop in prison, you're gonna do some shit. I think that is a reasonable amount of time for the crime. I'm not asking for life in prison.
Right.
I'm not asking for life in prison because looking at our criminal justice system, people do way less and get just as much time, and people do way more and get just as much time. And it would be unfair for me to put her in jail for this murder, which was of a totally innocent person, for life in prison. Like, given the scales of what we do in America, I think that 10 years is good. Now, that is no way to that's not going to make the family feel better.
Right.
It's not going to bring their child back or their uncle back or whatever. It sucks to think about jail time and think about the crime that was committed and create a balance there. Like, it's not. I don't know how you do that, but I think based upon those 10 years is a good amount of time.
Okay.
What I posted to your Facebook page was actually there are no winners here. Both sides lost.
Yes.
We have this family, black guy in his house, shot dead for zero reason, lost. And we have this woman whose biases are so strong because we're in the country that we're in. Her biases were so strong. She was in a house that was very much so not her house. Like, if you look at her home and his home, she walked into the home, it's messy. His shit's everywhere.
See, I didn't even know. I didn't see it. And I know that I heard something about a doormat.
There's a doormat, but if you walked into the house and seen his house, there's no way. Like, you know what your house looks like. If you want to know the house, you're not gonna look around and be like, "This is my house." He had clothes on, like, hangers and shit drying. Like, it looked nothing like her house, right? But her biases in this country are so strong that she still felt right, and she still felt threatened because he stood up and walked toward her. Her biases were so locked down, she couldn't even see how wrong she was to even allow her brain to interpret the idea that she was wrong. All she seen was, there's a black man walking towards me who's threatening in a place that he's not supposed to be. Even though so many things, everything about that situation seemed wrong, her biases were still like, but there's a black man walking towards me, he's threatening, I'm gonna shoot. And what really got me after that is that she didn't take any life-saving. She didn't try to save life at all, and that's really what I think she should have went to jail for. Making a mistake and being a fucking biased piece of shit, as we all are. Okay, I'll give you that one. Not time without jail, but I can understand that given the landscape of our country. But you didn't try to save his life, and here's where I have. Granted, another podcast, but I'll say this. Here's what I say about police officers. Your job is to protect and serve. Your job is to protect this black man from this white woman also your job protects this black man from himself. You're supposed to protect me from me and protect me from other people, even if I am the criminal, even if I am to blame. Once I am within your custody, once I am put down, once I am stopped, your job is to protect me. And she didn't do that. And that's something I think
which happens a lot.
Yeah, I think that cops forget about that whole protect and serve part when it comes to people who are brown.
Even when, like, they know there's no danger anymore.
Yeah.
They still let them sit there bleeding out in handcuffs and not doing
Or
anything.
when they're down or they keep choking you out. And it's like, this is why I think bias training is 100% essential for police officers.
So what about the woman that in Fort Worth?
The woman in Fort Worth, that guy, one, he was a rookie cop. Yeah. So whoever allowed him to do that
and be first
should also be fired from their job and suffer some crimes. Like, you shouldn't. And also, like, I watched a video of him firing. Like, you're doing a wellness check at 2 o'clock in the morning, looking like a burglar with lights flashing through windows, and a woman who owned a legal firearm to protect her home, probably for reasons like this. And because he's a trained officer, he's seen that firearm first and then shot first. Now, she's not a trained citizen, and should have been a burglar in her home. He might not have. That burglar who, doesn't.
It's 100% in Texas. You can shoot to protect your home.
Yeah, she might have had a little bit more time to shoot first, because burglars aren't trained to shoot people. They're burglars, and they have a gun, and they're just untrained Americans, right? Assume they're not super stealthy Deadpool serial killers. Like, they're just normal people. A police officer trained to use his firearm, trained to shoot, trained to protect himself, blah, blah, blah. Didn't take any time, shot first. Fine, I get that part. You did your training. But why were you outside of her house? And you posted something about the cops coming to your door.
Yeah, we had the same thing happen at our house.
When police officers come to your door, they fucking knock on your door and let you know that they're cops.
Scared the fuck out of us. It's 3 a.m. and we hear this pounding, and we get to the living room, and they're like, Santa Clara PD, please open up. We're like, what the fuck? We open the door, like, oh, one of your neighbors saw your garage. So we have a detached garage that faces an alley, and the door was left open, lights off. Like, they were just worried if something was wrong.
Yeah.
But that's how they came. They came and they knocked.
Yeah.
These officers parked around the corner, snuck into the backyard.
Yeah.
Like, it is just...
they wanted to see the black woman doing something wrong, and they were just like, yeah. And then
and it came out to the dispatcher. That's how they marked it, too. So
Really?
They didn't mark it as a weapon. That was one of the newest articles I was reading.
I didn't remember that.
He called it in, the neighbor who feels horrible. They said his family said he's so distraught. Like, he was worried if they were safe. He did go to check, because then people online like, you shouldn't call the cops, you should just check yourself. Like, no, that's how people, like, the cop's job, the police officer's job is to protect and serve, like you said.
Yeah, that's a fucking job.
And you're gonna have people getting hurt because they're trying to inject themselves in situations that are not safe. And had it been some sort of a robbery, and then he also got injured trying to investigate, they have no one to call for help. Like, it's really a dangerous precedent to set that people can feel like they're not allowed to call for help when they need it.
And that's the thing, like, if someone called for a wellness check for whatever reason,
non-emergency wellness check, not like I think someone's
even this person is a racist piece of shit. They don't necessarily want someone shot dead. Like, I'll give you that. It should have happened. It should not have happened. And you do a wellness check, you knock on the door, because this is America. We own guns here in our homes.
And Texas, they know.
Yeah, it's staying around. And if you're walking around at night with a flashlight flashing speakers, and I'm in Texas, I'm going to shoot first and ask questions later. And unfortunately for her, she did not. She did the responsible thing.
About the poor nephew. Like, that poor
watching
little
her,
boy
it's so bad.
Never, ever, ever going to be
that is a trauma you can't erase. So yeah, that guy should get life in prison. That is a life in prison crime. And then whoever he was.
That was thought out. Like, I don't know if he knew what, and I guess it was a black neighborhood maybe, so maybe they had a feeling, but I mean, that was a plan. That was a plan to handle a situation in a certain way where the negative outcome was, they always say create the situation so the outcome is what you want it to be. So that's almost setting it up to be negative. Yeah, no.
You put her in a position, it's almost literally entrapment. You put her in a position to protect herself, and then you shot her for it. Like, that's like, come on, that's not how shit should go.
So yeah, I definitely want to see officer. I'm not for that. They should definitely be held accountable. Training should be happening. I think if you're going to be making life and death decisions like that, then you should have to, like I said, go to school longer.
Absolutely.
I think that's how you weed out people that maybe don't belong there or are there for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, for the wrong reasons. That guy was educated. He had a degree in physics. Like, he was not a dumb dude.
And I think police departments also should reflect their community. Yeah. If you're policing a community that's 40% black and 28% Hispanic and 12% this, and then that's what the police department should look like. I don't think we should have all white police departments
in the black community,
in minority communities.
maybe not
in any. I mean, I don't not just but any at all. I think that they should make it a point, and male to female too. Like I think that's how we have it be.
Oh my God, Marya, these sound like really progressive ideas here. You might be a Russian.
Am I a plant?
Yeah. You might not be American. I don't know. You're talking about making things equal? Like, what are you, a commie? Get out of here with that.
Well, and I forgot. I did want to open with this, and I totally forgot. But we were in a sci-fi bar, sci-fi fan bar. Sorry, not sci-fi bar. Sci-fi fan bar. I didn't ask about your fandoms. So, what are your fandoms currently? Like, what is it that you get excited about?
Currently, okay. Because actually about my fandoms is like I could. All right. Well, we're gonna be here for a while. Right now, what am I getting excited about in terms of fandoms? Okay, so there's a lot. I watch a lot of TV. Arrowverse.
We're big on that one too.
Yes, I think the DC Arrowverse, 100%. I'm going to say it. I think it's bad TV. It's not great TV. It's McDonald's for your face and intellect.
Look at
Yet,
Paul.
I will watch it every single time, and I am into every single show except for Supergirl. I can't do Supergirl. I don't want your writing.
We've been trying to get in. My favorite is Legends. I love Legends. I like the time travel and the history.
I can't do Legends neither. And I have a friend who's big on media, and he's like, "That's just horrible TV." And I'm like, I don't disagree with him. I think the Arrowverse is not the greatest TV ever. As I'm watching all of it, eating my fucking food, being like, I'm not moving until this is over. So do I think it's artistic best Steven Spielberg? No. When I say it's bad TV, I don't mean it's that. But I think it sets forth the goal, it achieves it, and also it's fucking awesome. So Flash, Arrow, trying to get into Batgirl. Watch the first 2 episodes.
We're on one end, but we like it.
One end. I like it. No, this is a lot. I want to like it. I don't like it yet. I'm still giving it a chance. But I felt the same way about Arrow. First much Arrow, I didn't like it. I wanted to like it, so I gave it a chance. I gave it a season.
A little bit of Grease, and now no one knows who he is. I mean,
come on. And I realize it's TV. I can't judge it through those metrics. I have to tone it down and look at the fantasy world that they're creating.
Paul and I have Arrow and Black Canary costumes.
Okay, so quick question for you. I'm still talking about my fandom because Arrowverse is real big to me right now. Also, it's not really geek fandom, but This Is Us is kind of my jam.
Love it.
Different podcast.
No, I
but
love
yes.
it.
Also, someone told me I once reminded them of Sterling K. Brown, which was 100% wrong. If you're listening to this and not looking at me, I look nothing like Sterling K. Brown, but I want to.
You know you're kind of wrong, right?
Oh God. Oh fuck.
Sorry.
Thank you.
When that man gets on his little treadmill.
Yeah. Oh God. I'm cisgender. I mean, I'm like, oh, is there a pedal under me? I think I'm leaking a little bit.
Do you go gay for Sterling K?
No, actually, no. Actually, it does rhyme. I wouldn't, but fuck, that's not another t-shirts. Go gay for Sterling K.
So was that a story you identified with? Because that's part of your story. Is the Oreo
story.
And yeah.
Not all of it, but there's parts of it that fucking brought me to tears because I definitely felt that ousted from it did. They hit home with some of that.
Because there was in the most recent one of the recent episodes, Kevin.
Spoilers.
Not that big, but Kevin's connecting to the black kids at the pool and making Randall doesn't know the rap songs. Kevin does.
Oh, that was. I didn't have a white brother.
Yeah,
but
I mean like that same.
I definitely was in many scenarios growing up where people were just like black songs. And I'm like, I don't know any of this. What are you talking about? I'm in a situation right now. People talking about black songs and black songs. I'm just like, or black artists. I'm like, who was that? I feel really proud of myself that I even knew who fucking Jay-Z was. Black Canary you mentioned.
Yes.
Which Black Canary? In the Arrow universe.
Yes, from the show.
From the show.
But I'm like, he went all out.
No, which one did you like? I'm asking.
Oh, wait, what do you mean?
Because there's 2 Black Canaries in the Arrow universe.
You're talking about the way Laurel from the...
There's Laurel.
No, I like that blonde.
The blonde. That's the Black Canary. She was such a better Black Canary than Laurel Lance.
Paul's getting mad.
He's getting mad? Oh my God, she was so much better. Like her doing the fucking salmon ladder, like she looked like the Black Canary. Buff, strong. Now I will give her this. Laurel Lance's Black Canary that aired recently in the Arrowverse when the Crisis of Infinite Earths right now looks better. Better costume, better haircut, better stance. But her sister, to me, in that universe, Sarah is
Who's
the
in Legends, which is why we love Legends.
which is why I watched Legends in the first place.
She's in white leather.
She's a white canary. She's a better black canary, and she's a lesbian in the show. 100% believable. Like, I don't know if she's lesbian in real life, but I believe her.
I don't know. We got pictures with her and what's the other one's name? Her girlfriend in Legends. You don't watch Legends. You gotta watch Legends.
I gotta watch Legends. I do need to watch Legends and Wonder Supergirl to catch up on Crisis on Infinite.
Yeah.
So that's one of this men too. This Is Us. A video game called The Last of Us. I played it. I fucking love Last of Us. It was an amazing video game. I'm waiting for the second one to come out. I've been waiting for like 3 years for the fucking game to come out. The Last of Us blew my fucking mind. I'm ready for number 2. Fandom always Star Wars.
I was hoping.
Episode 9. Oh, they got a lot of shit to cover because episode 8 kind of not the best one. not favorite. No, again, different podcast.
It's like hanging out with a toddler. It's like episode 7 was building all these things with blocks, and
Oh my
episode
God.
8 was a toddler just kicking it all
Kim
over.
is like fuck everything. You're just like, what? Wait, you built this
I
big
just spent
tower.
all this time.
Yes. This is a bigger question. I got a lot of fandom to go through, so give me sitting for a minute. So then we got through that video game. I'm watching a slew of things on Netflix right now. The DC streaming Titans. I really like that.
Okay, no, I haven't seen that one.
I like the original Teen Titans, not Teen Titans Go, which is fucking bullshit. The original Teen Titans, not original, Teen Titans animated series that they made. That was the whole series centered around Slade Wilson, aka
Deathshot? No,
Deathstroke.
Deathstroke.
The centered around Deathstroke. Slade was they never called him Deathstroke during that show. They only called him Slade. Those characters in that was just amazing. And then you had Teen Titans Go, which was just kiddie and stupid. And then now we got
our family loves the kids love Teen Titans.
Well, the kids. But unfortunately, I was in my 20s when I watched.
No, well, I think Paul
Teen
likes
Titans.
it too. I don't know.
I did not like Teen Titans Go, only because they replaced Teen Titans Go with. They replaced the Teen Titans I like with Teen Titans Go.
Okay.
I got a grudge. There's a grudge there. And then I'm watching that. I have a lot of fandoms, dude. And then my other fandom, big fandom that kind of never goes away, is Star Wars. Oh, Marvel. I think Marvel's and it's just they're doing great things business-wise right now, making Kevin Feige the leader of all things Marvel moving, all things Marvel in general, even comics. I think that was just a great decision. I'm super excited about what they got coming down the lines here. I was just talking about this to someone. I can't recall everything I was talking about, but Marvel has some things happening that got me really, really excited. Not going to get into it, but that's another fandom. Final Fantasy VII is probably my favorite video game ever. That's the game that helped me, the first door to me being a geek. So I have a forever love of anything Final Fantasy VII related in my heart. So it's a fandom, but it kind of never goes away. And there's probably a lot more that I'm not even thinking of right now. I like geek things. I like fantasy.
We think of the label blurred.
Blurred?
Is
Black nerd?
Yes.
Yes.
You didn't notice that.
I know.
You didn't use it.
Yes.
What do you think of it?
I did not use it, and one, I forgot about it because I don't really consider it. But I don't think I'm a blurred, because when it comes to nerd culture, to me, nerd culture is an escape from all the other bullshit, right? It's where nerds get together to be like, hey, none of us fit any of our stereotypes. Like, you're black, you're white, but your dad's a businessman, but you like Dungeons and Dragons. You're Mexican and your dad's, whatever, a practical guy. Like, he likes hands-on, tangible things that makes him money. Driving, picking, working. And you like writing fantasy. You like imagining things. You don't fit your stereotype. Like, I don't like the term black nerd because it's very offensive to the nerd culture in general, which is an escape from the normal shit. So I disagree vehemently with the term
Okay.
black nerd. I'm not a blurred. I'm not a black nerd. I'm just a fucking nerd. It's the one area I can just be one thing, or one word. I'm Oreo, not this, not that. I'm just a fucking nerd. Yeah.
Very cool.
One of the reasons I like this bar. I'm just a nerd here. And there's another black guy in Star Wars, so eat it, people.
Yeah, we got him up on the wall over there
Yeah.
somewhere. Where did
got-
no, he's back here now.
Yeah, we got Lando and we got
Yeah,
fucking like
Lando.
Finn over there. I can look at him.
Yep.
So, yeah. But yeah, no. I think Marvel. My goal today after I leave this bar is to go home, set up I set up an outdoor projector, set that up, and get a fire pit going, a little tiny fire pit. Pour a glass of whiskey and watch Endgame for the umpteenth time. I've seen Endgame a couple times.
So you gotta watch it again.
Yeah,
It's on my
it's
list.
so good. So my fandom is pretty deep. What is your fandom? Other than Star Wars, 'cause I think that's implied.
Yes. Well, and Star Wars was more. I always
sorry.
said that I was +1 to Paul's.
Disney, Maleficent
Yes.
movie out right now, and I like things Disney, and
Yeah, my Disney. Love Disney. Love all things Disney. Grew up with Disney. Grew up with Star Wars too. Just a family connection. We do watch Flash. I like more. It's a little lighter. Arrow I watched because of Paul. Really like, and then they started doing the crossovers. But,
Yeah.
But Arrow's like heavier and
it is heavier. It's darker.
Darker, and
Yeah. Yeah.
As I've gotten older, I want to be entertained. I don't want to be depressed.
Season 1, he killed people.
Yes.
As the hero.
Yes.
Like it's dark.
It's dark. And then they killed people, like they killed Sarah and they killed Laurel and they kill people. And like I like shows where like they look like they're going to, but then they save them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And Arrow's like all bets are off. You
He's
just
like,
don't,
no.
they killed the mom.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't know.
Motherfucker's gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I like Arrow actually.
So I watched that more like with him. And then I like when they turn fairy tales into everyday. So like I loved the Disney.
Are you a Once fan?
Yes, that's when I was trying to think of the name of it. I loved that. I love seeing how they took the characters into modern day and
Love
let it
Once
play
for
that.
the first couple seasons, 5 seasons I think.
Yeah, I think I didn't finish it all the way. I think
Yeah.
I might have.
But Once, the first couple seasons of Once,
Yeah.
super into
yeah,
it.
I love
Got what's his name?
the
The
guy.
guy.
Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah. The only guy no one cares about Once is clearly the better person. Jennifer Morrison is actually in This Is Us.
Which one's Jennifer Morrison?
The main character through most of Once until the end. The mom of the kid.
Oh,
I can't remember her name.
yes. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. She's actually in This Is Us.
Who is she in This Is Us?
You're in episode 1.
No, This Is Us. I'm all the way. I'm caught up.
Yeah, but you
Oh.
she's spoilers. AA meeting with Kevin.
Uh huh.
That's her.
And she's the mom of which kid?
Yeah, and Once the main kid, like
The
from
little
season
kid?
yeah from season 1, the actual mom in Once.
Really?
It's Jennifer Morrison. Yeah, it's her.
I did not pick up on that.
Really?
The hot blonde from Once.
Yes.
She does not look that hot in This Is Us.
Well, she's a vet. Like they dubbed her down a little bit.
That's really
yeah.
her?
That's really her.
Now I'm gonna look this up and say
Through all of Once, there's been like 2 women. There's like the adopted mom and the
Yes.
birth mom. She's the birth
Lana,
mom.
I love her.
She
the
is great.
adopted mom.
She is sexy.
Yeah, did you see her in Swingtown?
I did not.
It's the 70s about swingers.
Oh,
Very hot.
I will watch that.
We have it on DVD. We don't have a way of playing it anymore.
Yeah.
I think it was only like 2 seasons, but it was really.
Springtown.
Yeah.
I will watch that
See?
because
There
she
you go.
is she's a very attractive woman. He's doing the thing. He's doing the thing. He's doing the thing.
Yeah. So, in closing, I want you to tell me something you don't think I know. So we go back to be open with all your labels and all your descriptors and who you are.
You know everything
tell
about
me
me,
something
except
from a different perspective, something I don't know myself or you don't think that I would know. Tell me something.
Yeah, so it took me a while to get this one because I don't know. I'm a pretty open book and I don't keep a lot of stuff, and also there's nothing about this particularly interesting. But I touched on a little bit earlier about my black stereotypes, and the one thing about me that you don't know is, it's an unfortunate thing, that I can be the angry black guy in the room. And that's something no one about me really knows because I have a couple of friends that have only seen it a couple of times. If you endanger me, I'm cool. I will walk away from any fight. If you endanger my personal safety, I will let it go. If you endanger someone I love or one of my friends, I will turn into the angry black man in the room in a second. I will be every single stereotype. I will absolutely lose my mind, and I will be that person. And I am. It kind of hurts me because I don't want to be that person. I am not that guy. I'm not the angry black man. But the moment someone I love becomes in danger, I will 100% turn into that guy. And it's something I can't turn off. It's something I was born with. I just keep it in check. But I think that's something, being angry and being mad and being upset is something no one's ever seen me be, or nor will see me be, because I have no reason to be that. I'm a pretty tolerant person until someone I love comes into the target. And that's the thing about me. I think you wouldn't know.
Wouldn't know. Is there something you can tell me that I wouldn't know from your perspective, like something about life in general that you could open my eyes to? Something you've experienced either as a chef, as a
chef,
as a cisgender, as a black man, as a geek, as a nerd, something from your walk in life, you like a moment of like a step in your footsteps.
You can step in my footsteps.
Something I wouldn't know, something I wouldn't get from my perspective as a not those things.
Well, I mean, literally all of those things.
Well.
But let's turn it down here. Sorry, I got to drink this water.
I know now it's water. You got to get it filled up.
I'm going to attack this from the chef perspective.
Sure.
Because we talked about everything else in my family about the chef. Things that something you wouldn't know about me. In the vein of being
your perspective, like from. So what I'm looking for is something to share with the audience in general, like something from your perspective that someone else might not know who doesn't walk in your shoes.
Yeah.
Something.
I think this hits it. I don't know. You can tell me. Chefs don't cook.
For fun. Like
no, in the kitchens.
Oh. Okay.
We don't. The higher you up to being a chef, the less cooking you do.
So what do you do?
I direct people who cook. I teach people to cook. I make sure food comes out on time. I work in a corporate environment, this is true, but unless you're doing side gigs somewhere, if you're a chef and you're in a restaurant, you're a businessman. You don't really cook. You've already learned how to cook. Your whole job now is to make sure the person cooking is not fucking up, so they can be able to become a chef. So that's one thing I did
not know that.
It's a big misconception. When you have a chef who does, like, you did a demo in Vegas when the chef cooked, that probably was a lot of fun for him because he doesn't get to cook normally. At home, sure, maybe. But, like, 4 people, like, an audience, doesn't get to do that anymore. If he's behind the line cooking, his restaurant's not doing well. So, chefs don't cook. We don't. We love the opportunity to.
You plan.
And we plan for it, but when we cook, it is a thing. It is for a specific reason.
Huh.
Inexperience that I have had. I can't say that for every single chef.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, don't cook. Miss it. I miss cooking. Yeah. How about yourself? What is something about you? Oh, didn't expect that.
No.
I know, right? I saved it for this reason.
I did think about the other things. I did. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Don't worry, we can fix it in post. We'll just edit it out.
Well, I think, and maybe just going back to just what I was saying, that learning that if I smile first, what a difference that makes.
Yeah.
In that, from my perspective, and realizing that it's easy to smile when life's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And so I will often get, oh, let me throw this in for free, or here, let me give you my discount, let me do this. I mean, things like that happen to me a lot, and not because people who know me are like, oh, that's because you own a bar and they think they're gonna get something back. Just in general in my life over the years, I don't think I've ever interviewed for a job that I wasn't offered. So my problem has been picking. Like, I got 2 offers. I'm like, oh my God, which one is the right choice? And the first time we looked at a house and we weren't accepted to rent it, like, that was the first time. Like, it was the first time I ever dealt with my sunny disposition not getting me what I wanted. So I think that's a very different walk in my life.
Yeah, it is. Everyone has to walk.
Yeah. So I think that's something that. So not bragging, but just saying like that. I think that. It's easy to smile when shit's pretty sweet.
Yeah. All right then. That's a good note to end on.
So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me here
today. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Paul.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers with empty glasses.
Cheers. Oh, I got a glass full of half of most of here. I think we did good.